In a murder mystery, a case that went cold more than 40 years ago in Solano County. Tonight, the sheriff's office arrested 76-year-old Herman Hobbs.
Authorities were left scratching their heads when a bullet-riddled body of a woman was discovered in a cornfield in Dixon, California. Trying to figure out who the victim could be, if not even her identity known, the case seemed to be nearly impossible. But was this a premeditated murder? Or was the victim caught in an unfortunate circumstance? Hi and welcome back to Mysterious Cases 007. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Let's have a look at the 43-year-old Jane Doe cold case finally solved in 2023. 20 miles from Sacramento, Dixon was incorporated into Solano County in 1878. Those who live there can enjoy a suburban lifestyle without the hustle and bustle of a huge city. It is a rural village well renowned for its sheep and dairy farms as well as alpha fields. The Mayfair, the oldest state fair in California, and the yearly Lambtown Festival are both held in Dixon. When a young woman's body was discovered in a cornfield in Dixon in 1980, the town's modest farming population was startled by the murder that Dixon was at the center of. In the midst of the American summer's peak on August 3, 1980, at around 3 p.m., two cornfield workers in Dixon were hard at work removing a field close to Severs Road. They came across something peculiar as they moved through the corn stalks that were lying on the ground. The men opened a passage while approaching with extreme caution and then came across a young woman's body. They called their manager without thinking twice, and he or she quickly called the police. The Solano County Sheriff's Office police quickly came and blocked off the area. The victim appeared to have been shot numerous times, therefore homicide was declared. They looked about for hints but came up empty-handed. Nothing belonging to the victim or any kind of identification could be found nearby. They questioned additional personnel and potential witnesses, but still got no responses to their expanding list of inquiries. According to investigators, the young woman was allegedly killed somewhere and then dumped in the cornfield because of its proximity to the road. The body of the victim was transported to the county morgue for an extensive autopsy. Homicide from gunshot wounds was determined to be the cause of death. She had received 6 gunshot wounds to the head and neck. No indications of a sexual assault or wound defense were present. Investigators attempted to check numerous databases using the victim's fingerprints in an effort to uncover any information that would help identify her. There were no leads found after searching the missing persons databases, and the victim had no criminal history. She was given the name Dixon Jane Doe, and a composite profile featuring her images was created. She was characterized in the report as being white with brown eyes and dark brown hair styled in a punk rock fashion. She also had a little, dark mole on her chin's left side. She was between the ages of 15 and 23. 155-pound weight while 5 feet, 2-inch height was recorded. She was dressed in a light blue long-sleeve smock with wooden buttons, a little floral pattern, and a safety pin that held the top together at the time of her death. She was also wearing a green wool cardigan. She was sporting a wooden bead necklace in addition to a white metal spoon ring on her left index finger. The victim's case swiftly went cold despite the information being made accessible to all neighborhood police stations and sheriff's offices. Leads stopped coming in and tips became scarce. The victim's fingerprints were repeatedly checked by the investigators, but nothing was discovered on any systems. A month after the bodies were found, the victim's remains were interred in a Solano County cemetery under the name Dixon Jane Doe. The lawsuit lost its heat. Investigators would periodically review the file. 10 years later, they got a fresh lead. On June 19, 1992, the Solano County Sheriff's Office received fresh information on the Dixon Jane Doe case. On May 12, 1992, Augustine and Sally Campley reported being missing. and the National Missing Persons Unit got in touch with the investigation team about it. They stated that Holly and Campbell, their 21-year-old daughter, vanished in July 1980. The Campbell family claims that they filed a missing person report for Holly in July 1980 after getting a letter from her stating that she did not want to communicate with them any further. The address on the letter was from a bogus street address, which they found when they tried to follow it. The missing persons report that Holly's parents had initially filed in July 1980 was later found to have been erased from the national database 2 weeks after it was filed, as Holly's parents learned. Investigators checked the database with the new information after receiving the specifics. Also, they asked for DNA samples to compare with those of Jane Doe. Augustine and Sally Campbell welcomed a daughter named Holly and Campbell in 1959. She was raised in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, the oldest of 5 girls. According to her family, she was a free spirit and always upbeat. She adored her sisters and frequently helped them with their hairstyles and dress sales. She was described as intelligent and creative by her father Augustine. Holly Ann's life appeared to be going according to plan because she was doing well in school and receiving straight A's. Holly Ann started to shift in her senior year of high school in 1976, though. Her parents became aware of her withdrawing from the family and later learned she had begun consuming drugs. They also saw changes in her emotional breakdowns and mental well-being. They were unable to comprehend the underlying reason for her issues. Holly Ann enrolled at Glassboro State College to pursue a degree in fine arts despite her personal issues. She then started acting wildly once more. Holly Ann started fleeing her house. In 1977, the initial occurrence took place before her parents discovered her wandering along Highway 70 about a mile from their house. She had been missing for more than a month. Holly Ann continued to run away from home throughout the ensuing years, and she also grew less receptive to the therapy she was receiving for her mental issues. According to Holly Ann's mother Sally, Holly must always be kept under observation because she frequently leaves the house. The family of Holly Ann made a valiant effort to ensure that they provided her with all the aid they could. On June 10, 1980, when she was traveling to a counseling facility, she discovered that she had lost her daughter. Holly Ann became frustrated and began to have an outburst as her mother was driving, arguing that she needed to do things her way and see the world. Holly Ann attempted to open the door while her mother was driving. She instantly started to walk away as Sally pulled the car over to the side of the road to talk to her. Sally tried to hang on to her daughter but was unable to do so. As soon as Sally got back home, she reported Holly Ann missing and made a call to Cherry Hill police. She tried to help by stopping a few girls that resembled Holly Ann, but it was already too late. She had already departed the city. A month later, they got a letter from Holly Ann written from California. Holly Ann said in the letter that she was living with 2 men and had instructed her parents to stop thinking about her. They were unable to find the address anywhere. When they did, she was reported missing. The database for missing people received Ann's name and profile. They had no idea that her information had been unintentionally deleted from the database. The Campbell family contacted Social Security and other missing people networks to see if Holly Ann had shown up on their radar in any way. Her family looked for answers for many years. The Campbell family had finally located Holly Ann after 12 years of searching, providing them with some of the closure they had been seeking. There are many reasons to believe that knowing what happened to her is somewhat relieving, she claimed. In 1992, Holly Ann's remains were transported by air from California to New Jersey for her ultimate burial. Holly Ann would be flying for the first and last time. She had trouble holding out for a plane. She either took a bus or hitchhiked. It will be the first time she has ever been on an airplane when they send her body home. And finally, with the victim's name now known, detectives collaborated with Holly Ann's family to try to solve her murder. They had not heard from her in more than a decade, so they had no fresh information to add to the case. They had to start over from scratch. The probe could not proceed if there were no fresh leads. The case closed once more. The family started looking at the new technology that was being developed to solve cold cases as the case sat unsolved. The Solano County Sheriff's Office was contacted by Holly and sisters in 2021 to inquire whether it was possible to retest all of the biological evidence that had been gathered from the crime scene and Holly Ann's body. After reviewing the case, the Sheriff's Office resubmitted the evidence. Thankfully, the evidence was adequately preserved. Despite how old the samples were, technological advancements made it possible to test the biological material. The Serological Research Institute received the DNA samples and was able to identify a foreign DNA profile. The laboratory findings demonstrated that the foreign DNA, which was discovered on multiple pieces of evidence, was of a male. Officials sent their latest discoveries to the San Mateo Crime Lab in California with a new DNA profile. They soon discovered that the DNA profile matched a man who was already serving time in jail and was already on their system. His name was Herman Lee Hobbs. Aged 76, Hobbs was already incarcerated at Valley State Prison in Chowchilla. Hobbs was a mechanic who had formerly resided in Sacramento. According to reports, he was married to Louise Hobbs and had kids with her. Hobbs was a confirmed drug user who also engaged in producing methamphetamine for his personal use. Hobbs' personal life is mostly unknown, although his lengthy and unsettling criminal past is well documented. Hobbs was caught in 1969 at the age of 22 after leading police on a dramatic vehicle pursuit in the wake of a string of robberies in Sacramento. He consented to enter a guilty plea to being the serial burglar after admitting to being responsible for more than a dozen robberies. Yet when he was being sentenced, he tried to flee the courtroom and had to be stopped by law enforcement. After only 5 years in prison, he was released in 1975, but the worst was yet to come. Hobbs' criminal career came to an abrupt halt in the year 2000. He was found guilty of assaulting a woman from California's UBA County. After his imprisonment, Hobbs' own daughter and niece came forward with information suggesting that he may have been behind a number of deadly incidents between 1975 and 2000. As a result of reviewing several old cold cases, investigators were able to track Hobbs' movements after his parole. Terry Pata, then 13 years old, left school early in January 1975 after claiming to be sick and having a headache. She failed to return home. 9 days later, her body was discovered in a drain pipe along the path she usually walked to get home. A knife wound had caused her death. According to investigators, Hobbs relocated to Rio Linda in 1975 and resided about a street from Terry's house. They compared Hobbs' DNA against Terry's murder evidence since it was already on file and discovered a match. In the UBA County case from 2000, Hobbs was already incarcerated for a significant period of time. He received a second sentence of 25 years to life after entering a no-contest plea to Terry's murder. After Hobbs was captured, another unsolved case came to light. The skull-able woman was found in 2000 by loggers operating close to the UBA County foothills. For DNA testing, the remains were shipped to an anthropology facility in California. The findings demonstrated that Brenda and Tucker, 29, who went missing in May 1994, was the owner of the skull. Her clothes were discovered in the Rackerby neighborhood by a creek, and her automobile was found in the parking lot of a Brownsville market. Brenda wasn't declared found until December 2000. It was determined by the results of the autopsy that she had been killed by a bullet to the back of her head. Also, following the finding, witnesses came forward alleging Brenda was murdered. When Hobbs was completing his term for Terry's murder, the case moved to trial. Phil Spadini, a detective sergeant of UBA County, testified during the trial. He claimed in court that witnesses claimed to have seen Brenda depart Hobbs' home before they also claimed to have seen him leave. He added that a towel from Hobbs' own house was among the clothes that had belonged to Brenda that had been discovered in 1994 not far from the house he and his wife Louise occupied. He said that Brenda's remains had been discovered not far from Hobbs' residence in 1984. Spadini also cited two reports of assaults by Hobbs made by women in Uba County, one of whom said the crime took place close to the area where Brenda's remains were discovered. According to Brenda's family, Hobbs was a frequent house guest in the 1990s and got to know them well. The black jeans Brenda was last seen wearing had DNA that matched Hobbs. However, a judge dismissed the case on September 17, 2002, during his agreement, claiming that there was insufficient proof to connect Hobbs to Brenda's death. Also, detectives were investigating into a potential connection between Lee Hobbs and the disappearance of Jennifer Lynn Wallace, 35, from Dobbins in Uba County. After failing to meet with her estranged husband as planned, she was reported missing in November 1997. After his DNA was determined to match that at the Holly Ann Camplea crime scene, and the case was reopened in 2023, Hobbs' name reappeared. To confirm a direct match, a warrant was issued to get Hobbs' DNA. That turned out to be a successful match with a male DNA profile identified in the proof. On February 24, 2023, Hobbs was charged with murder and taken into custody. From the state prison, he was moved to the Solano County Jail. He is being held on a state prisoner hold and is being held without bond. On March 13, 2023, Hobbs is scheduled to assume the throne in Fairfield in the Solano County Superior Court. 5 further cases that could be connected to Herman Lee Hobbs are now being looked into by investigators. The Sheriff's Department issued a statement expressing gratitude to Holly Ann Camplea's family and the case's investigators after it was determined that Hobbs was responsible for her death. We are appreciative of the Camplea family's patience, their help, the lab's new technology that allowed for extra testing of earlier evidence, and the staff's hard efforts to help put an end to a lifetime of waiting. In a statement, they stated, Karen, Holly Ann's sister, sadly passed away on June 11, 2009, at the age of 47 from natural causes. Her mother, Sally Camplea, passed away on July 3, 2016, at the age of 83, likewise without knowing who killed her daughter. According to the Solano County Sheriff's Office, detectives are still collaborating with other agencies in Northern California to identify Hobbs and perhaps establish connections between him and other unsolved crimes and potential victims. Cold case investigations force detectives to work with grit, commitment, and a sense of duty to the families of the victims to see a case through to completion, no matter how long it takes to uncover the truth. The search for answers in the case of Holly Ann Camplea may help many other families find closure after losing loved ones to Herman Lee Hobbs' nefarious intentions. What do you think about the situation we have today? Do you believe Herman Lee Hobbs may be linked to other unsolved crimes in the Uba County region? Please let us know what you think in the space below, and always remember to stay safe. For more compelling tales like these, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel.